I could sort of kind of manage the amount of people that were over at one time versus, traditional way, hey, the housewarming was from 12 to 8, something along those lines, and having, too many people crammed in and not, being able to adhere to physical distancing recommendations. So
Yeah.
I tell people just this is when it's happening. Just, stop by when you can. I have tables and chairs set up in my backyard. So in case, because, with not too much happening these days, people are looking for a reason to not be in the house. So I know they're not just going to come see the house and then leave right away. So I have some things set up in the backyard, like I have big block Jenga, big card Uno, stuff like that, because I know people want to go hang out. So that's pretty much my rules are: if you're going to hang, backyard only.
Yes.
I need the house as empty as possible so people can, see the house and then, go to the backyard or leave if they choose to. So that's the real reason why it's 3 days. It's not just because I'm some huge party animal. It's
just stretch it out for safety and entertainment factor. Excellent.
I said masks are required in the house, but of course in the backyard, you can take your mask off. And I have a bathroom, I have a powder room right next to the patio door. So only way people can come back into the house is they're going to the bathroom right there. All the food and drinks, sodas and waters, they're going to be set up on tables on the patio. So I think I thought it through pretty well. So hopefully everything will go right this weekend.
Well, as an engineer, I bet you have. If I know a thing about engineers, I don't know.
It is my job to think, but sometimes, we can think too much. So
yeah.
Part of training.
That's good. That's good advice too. I'm curious if you're willing to talk a little bit about the young people that you were working with leading up to the forum and things. And was there anything, any takeaways for you, any kind of poignant moments or just things that you would like to share and have us all reflect upon?
I guess the biggest thing for me, it was a reminder that, especially because you hear so much about, us millennials and the second wave millennials about, us not wanting to work or we want things handed to us and we're spoiled X, Y, Z. It was just, a refreshing reminder that, we do want to work. Like we do want to earn our keep. We do want to be productive members of society. That we may want to go about different ways, but ultimately we all want the same things. We just have different approaches to it. So knowing that they were willing to seek the help, because it takes a certain amount of, humility to ask someone to help you move forward, especially for people with disabilities. For me, I've sort of kind of set up my entire house, my entire life, so I won't have to ask anybody to help me. But there's still those, times to where I have to ask people or pay people to do things that I don't have the ability to do. Like I would love to cut my grass. I would love to. I've been cutting grass since I was little. But now I have to pay somebody to cut my grass for me. And that's another expense. I probably could have talked about that yesterday during my breakout session when I was speaking about, some of the ongoing expenses that people with disabilities have to incur that we don't really get help for, if you want to live independently, that is. Things like, getting my gutters cleaned. Like I'm continuing to learn more and more about what it takes to be a person with a disability and living independently. Because as I mentioned on my breakout session yesterday, once I started working and I reported to Social Security how much I was making, and they told me that I wasn't eligible for disability benefits anymore, I had no idea how much my disability really cost until all of those bills started coming that, the government insurance was taking care of for me. And I'm just now getting to the point, almost 10 years into my young career, that I'm finally able to afford these things without having to, rob Peter to pay Paul, or ask somebody for help on this bill or something like that. And like 10 years into my career as an engineer, and the type of salaries that we make, but the things that my physicians told me when they told me that my chances of walking again was slim to zero, that if I wanted to live independently, being an engineer or a doctor were the only two real fields that I could have as a choice to live independently. It's held true 16 years later. Still 16 years later, it's still held true. So, knowing that they're interested in working and they're seeking the help and they're attending events like the UWill Summit, which, by the way, to your guys' credit, didn't exist when I was their age. Like I lived on my breakout session that I had nothing to go off of when it came to, living and surviving my injury and being a person who transitioned from being able-bodied to being a person with a disability. I literally had to figure out everything on my own. I was given some guidance to things when I was going through rehabilitation, but half the things probably 80% of what they taught me during physical and occupational rehabilitation didn't work for me in the real world. Mm-hmm. They would be in the scenarios that they were training me for when I was in inpatient rehabilitation. However, once I actually got into the world and saw how inaccessible the world really is, I had to relearn how to do everything that I was just taught. So having the means, just one thing my pastor, somebody's calling my phone. One of the things my pastor has to continually keep in mind for me, because I get upset and, the spirit of, depression or doubt tries to creep into my mind. He always tell me, he said, Tip, you're an engineer. You have the means to be able to pay for these things. I know you don't want to pay for them, but imagine if you didn't have the means, how much more stressed and how much more upset you would be. And I sort of kind of lean on that a lot. So anything I possibly do to help, people coming behind me navigate that path to gaining, some sort of financial independence, and establishing a life for themselves as a person with a disability, I believe it's my responsibility to help them along their path, because I'm a person who believes that things don't happen to us just for the sake of things happening to us. I believe there's purpose in everything that we go through. And I believe our stories weren't designed for us. I believe our stories are designed to help other people. Because although I may be talking to you, Jess, and telling you my story, you can take my story with you to the many people that you know in the Wisconsin area that I've never had an opportunity to interact with. But now they have an example of, okay, it is possible if I decide I wanted to do so.
That's really profound, Tipper. I really appreciate that I can tell. I mean, obviously you've thought a lot about your experience and how you continue to achieve the goals and pursue the goals that you were, you had set out for yourself in high school and before your injury and disability, and to think about how to continually reflect on kind of places to be grateful and also how to help others is real powerful and selfless to educate others that are coming along behind you and are that you haven't met. So thank you for your thoughts on that. And I heard you talk about your pastor, so I'm guessing, and it sounds like he's a real source of strength and grounding and perspective for you. And I'm curious, do you have others that are currently mentoring you and guiding you and where you want to go and what you're wanting to do for your career and life next? Do you have somebody at work that's a mentor, or do you have others that are kind of inspiring and leading you?
Yes, I have several. I am one who is a firm believer in the concept of not having to make my own mistakes to learn. I can learn from your mistakes just fine and make the correct decision. So whether I have, vice presidents and directors at work, I have, of course, my pastor. I have, older cousins, older frat brothers that I can lean on, just ask questions for things that are about areas of life that I have yet to experience, or things that I know that are coming up the horizon. But I believe mentoring is very important because I believe one of the biggest misconceptions about life in general is that the situation and circumstance that life throws at us, it can times make us feel like we're isolated, like we're alone, that no one else has ever gone through this before. And the fact of the matter is that's a lie. You just have to reach out to people to find out if they've gone through that or something similar, or they know someone who has, and allow those people to talk you through it, coach you through it, and help you overcome the situation. Because when you think you're alone in something, that's when depression sets in, anxiety, things of that nature. And then when those things set in, you're no longer the best version of yourself. You've regressed. And, I try my best to be an encourager and tell my story as much as possible to encourage as many people to continue to try to be the best version of themselves and aspire to be whatever they choose to aspire to.
Excellent. Appreciate you sharing that. I'm sorry, I'm jumping all over a little bit, but I'm thinking about, like you said, learning from others and not making your own mistakes, which resonates on many levels. And then I'm thinking about the sort of the hidden costs maybe of having a disability, and the things that you're saying that you have to pay for, or that may cost more, or that you just weren't aware of. And I'm curious for folks that are listening, I'm curious whether you've ever had the experience of having like a work incentive benefits analysis done and working with somebody around work incentives. So kind of tax credits or other ways to help navigate benefits. It sounds like some of it is you made some great money as an engineer, and so you kind of lost some of the public benefits. But I'm wondering if as you transitioned from high school or college and into your career, if you'd had that opportunity, or if you would have been interested in that opportunity if you didn't have it.
I would have very much been interested in it because I'm trying my best to find any tax break that I can take over. That's one of my main motivations to buying my home, until our current president changed the standards for how much you can claim back on your taxes from buying a home. So now I think I'm at the point now to where I have to have a kid in order to get a tax break. So that's on my mind now. And then I just think as I mentioned in my breakout session yesterday. And once you get to a certain level in life, or especially financially, the world or the government thinks that you no longer have a disability. All of a sudden, I think in Maryland, the number is $49,000. Anything over $49,000, you're no longer eligible for disability benefits. Because I make $49,000 and $1 or 50 cents. I'm no longer have a disability. And it's always interesting to me that the people who set these type of guidelines typically are not the ones who have to live by those guidelines. And that's why I always believe that representation is important, especially in the workforce and also in politics, because you have people who are setting these guidelines who really have no idea what it's like to be a person with a disability, or, in my personal opinion, to be able to have to sit at a table in a clinic and make that decision on whether they're going to keep or have their child. I have no idea what that's like. So who am I to say what you should or should not be able to do and how long you have to make that decision? I have no idea what that's like. So, having people who have, especially the hidden disabilities, we may have more congressmen and senators, and House representatives who have disabilities that have gone undisclosed. But I'm talking about physical representation of people with physical disabilities at those ranks and in those rooms. Um, I think it's very, very important because with that way we will know people within the room that can really consider our opinion and not just what they think.
I appreciate it. You're reminding me of a late legislator in Wisconsin who was a social worker and a Black woman. And when I was a graduate student, she had said, "People tell me if I'm not at the table, I'm on the table." And so I think, again, whether it be, the representation and amplifying all of those voices and perspectives, whether it be somebody with a physical disability and one that you acquire, one you're born with, your gender identity, other types of disabilities, skin color, and so on and so forth. If you're not there and being able to speak for yourselves and being able to share that perspective, then if our blinders are on and our decision makers, our policy makers, your very experience in our lives can be at stake by the consequences and the decisions they're making, without our voices and our perspectives, and without your lived experience being shared. And so that's real powerful insight from you and from Tamara Grigsby, who we've got some work to do, don't we, to get people to listen. Let's see. If you had a crystal ball, you've got your house, you talked about having a kid maybe, although I'll tell you, they're a heck of a lot more work and expense than that tax credit is worth. They're beautiful, wonderful beings, but boy, oh boy, my little one is a lot of work and my house shows for it. But if you had a crystal ball, like, where do you think you're going in your advocacy and your work? Let's say 10 years from now, do you have your sights set on something? I heard in your story yesterday, when you were in high school, you knew college and you decided to engineer and you did those things. You are those things. You had a goal for your house. You've got the house. So what's next? What's next for Tipper?
What's next for me is kind of a challenge, really, because it's I have things that I would like to accomplish, things that I would like to do, but I've learned since my injury occurred that I can have a plan, and have it in detailed, and and my imagination can run wild. But my plan is not necessarily God's plan. So I'm trying my best now, moving forward, to align myself with what I believe is God's vision for my life versus my own. Because the plan I had went horribly wrong. So the things that I'm aware of now, I would like to continue progressing in them, like far as my advocacy work, far as people with disabilities, advocating for gun control, advocating for youth services, advocating for more STEM programming and violence prevention program. I would like to further all of those initiatives. And if possible, I would like to take them to as many audiences and at many levels as possible, because, like I mentioned before, I believe our stories and experiences aren't meant solely for us, and they're designed to help other people. So anything that can help me further those initiatives, though, whether it's politics or being a pastor or really nothing's really off the table. Right? I'm just trying to prepare myself for whichever way life is going to take me, and continue to develop my content and make sure I have sound opinions and even develop innovative solutions to a lot of problems that we face. That's my natural training as an engineer, to provide solutions, not only identify problems, but also provide solutions to those problems and be a part of the solutions to those problems. Like I said, preparing myself mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally to, offer myself up to solve these problems. That's that's what I see next. Like I said, what exactly that looks like and what form that takes, TBD. But I know what the meat and potatoes of it will look like.
Excellent, excellent. I appreciate that, and I'm really loving the synergy between your message and your calling and your experience, and then what our other keynote with Minnie and the co-design, because she spent her time talking about the importance of having the end user and that expert in the design process and really at the center of it. And I think the two of you working together or discussing, and since you bring your engineering perspective on top of your lived experience, I think this conversation for me is tying together kind of both of your lenses and how you approach navigating the world and innovation, and kind of challenging all of us to be thinking more inclusively and creating new spaces for young people or those that acquire disabilities that don't have them currently or age into them, on designing everything from those policies, those programs, those systems. You talked about it in kind of youth service, youth justice, some reform as well. And there's a lot of intersection of interest and lived experiences of identities and the challenges in that. And I think I just appreciate you bringing your perspective in on it and your passion for building something bigger than yourself and sharing that. And I know you were just saying that, you wanted to share it with a lot of people. And I think through, certainly just through this Will Forum alone, these recordings will be shared and are available and are being streamed, not just live, but also afterwards. And I'm really, it gives me a lot of optimism that your voice is there for folks to really consider and to think about, what's driving you, what's getting you to show up for events like this, and how we can work together to be designing a new or continually better world and experience for folks. So maybe just one final question for you, and then you can get on to your party preparations. Is just, you've got this platform here right now. What do you want to say to employers? What do they need to hear from you as somebody who has a disability, who's talked to others? What do they need to know in October of 2020?
I think probably, like I said, my biggest message to employers and even just society in general, especially when it comes to, designing the future, is having as many people at the table as possible. As an engineer, I know when we're designing systems, we'll levy requirements on how to design a system, what the system is expected to have, how it's supposed to perform, from the concept phase to the design phase to operation to maintenance to disposal. We have to think through all of that, specifically in my role. And part of one of the roles that I perform for my job is human factors engineering. And it considers the end user, it considers the maintainer, and the type of spacing they will have to maintain the system, what special tools they will need, where they're going to maintain it, how are we going to dispose of the system in 50-something years when it's no longer relevant, for everything from hazardous materials to where they're going to be disposed, and how are we going to take the system back apart. All of these things are very important when you're designing the future of the world. Like, you have to consider all of these things. So in considering that, you have to think the scary thought that it doesn't take much to become a person with a disability. It can be horseplay. Kids are going to be kids. We've all reenacted, WrestleMania when we were little. You go ride a dirt bike or four-wheeler or a skateboard, any, a car accident, genetic mutation. You can, come into an illness like MS or ACLS. It doesn't take nothing, as drastic as, being shot like I was. A slip and fall, a number of things can cause someone to become a person with a disability. So, try to be as proactive as possible to put these things in place before they are needed. Don't view them as nice to haves, view them as necessities, because people transition, from able-bodied to disabled in the snap of a finger. And nobody is planned to become a person with a disability when they became a disabled person. So, just having these things in place, like nobody saw the pandemic coming, at least not the general public anyway. Nobody knew it was coming until it came. And so there were no plans in place to really, be able to negotiate. And we're very smart people, so we were able to come up and develop things, rather quickly. And we're still, at this point, have lost 200 something lives. So try to plan for as much as possible. Consider as many people as possible in your policies and procedures and your systems, because the unfortunate and scary thought of life and reality is you could be next. Like, I pray to God, and God forbid that it does happen, but when it does, what next? What's next? Because I didn't have this. I'm literally and building this life as I go. I remember when my injury first happened, I was just trying to think of, who could I look to, to figure out how to do this. And as I mentioned during, my previous sessions, all of the examples I knew were, old military veterans who had been, abandoned by, the system, or, winos and drunks and, things. I didn't have any positive examples of life after trauma in a wheelchair. So I had to build this by myself. I had support, don't get me wrong, but ultimately the decision to do it was mine. So when I was looking for, I had Christopher Reeves as someone who, that was quote unquote of celebrity status to look to. And then shortly after, he passed away. So ever since him, with his celebrity status being a Superman, we have nobody really at that level, at that platform, who can be in the rooms that, everyday individuals like ourselves would never be in, who have the resources to connect with this organization or this senator or that congressman, or and sort of kind of make sure that, we're considered, when we're designing the future. So at your level, at your company, in your household, in your social clubs, or anything that you're involved in that talks about, designing the future, try your best to consider or make sure people with disabilities are included in those conversations.
Tim, thank you, Tipper. Thank you. You're giving a lot for us to think about and consider. And, thank you for taking the time this morning, to share and to talk to us, and the time leading up to it, working with the young people and coaching them on their resumes and life and the experience, and helping them not feel so alone. I think I may have heard that, you might be the next Superman, is sort of what I think you were getting in there. You might be that to that person, to those young people and to some others. So, thank you for I know that you wouldn't say that. I'm totally jabbing you and teasing. But truthfully, I think you're really talking to the point that I think a lot of us are feeling with COVID-19 too, around isolation and how we all connect as humans, and how important it is to have supports in different ways, including role models and role models that look and experience the world more similarly to us. And the fact that you're giving that to other people, it is very generous and resilient. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your expertise, your wisdom, your service. And have a great rest of your day and housewarming weekend. I wish I was in Maryland so I could come over and invite myself over for some large Jenga.
Yeah, I'm hoping for it to be a good time. But we're getting a little weather right now, but it's supposed to clear up.
Okay.
Time everything's supposed to start. But I really would like to thank Whitewater staff for including me, Dr. Yarborough, for mentioning my name and continuing to give me an opportunity to help other people. He's been very instrumental in my years of me, finally promoting myself as a storyteller and as a thought leader, and bringing me to places that I never thought I would have an opportunity to go. Like, I was thoroughly looking forward to coming to Madison and seeing the beautiful grounds and meeting new people. But another thing that happened that we wasn't expecting. So this is the next best thing, and maybe in the future we'll see what happens. Hopefully I'll be invited again. If not, I'll just pop up on you guys one day and say, hey, I'm here.
We expect that. You better, right? Come check out, campus and meet us all in person. Appreciate it.
I just want to thank you all. You kept me updated through all of the reschedulings and schedule changes and agenda shifts. All of those, I didn't have to worry about anything because I know it was a challenge for you guys trying to put this all together virtually versus what the original plan was. So no things slipped through the cracks, but I really do appreciate you all's professionalism and making sure you put forth the best product as possible. So thank you all for this opportunity. I pray this summit does somebody some good, and you all continue to be blessed.
Thank you, Tipper. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Yarbrough, for connecting you to us. For folks that are with us live, we will have breakout sessions again beginning at 1:30. So you have a little break time right now to attend to work and bio needs. So we'll see you for breakout sessions at 1:30. How to be an innovator with John DeGraff and cultivating your talent pipeline with myself and Georgianne Masiorka. So thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you, guys.